And now we revisit a story we brought you a couple of years ago, but it still rings true today. The Salvation Army serves people in need year-round, but during the Christmas season, those little red kettles are known well, with that synonymous bell ringing filling the air. Donations are down this year, as well as volunteer hours. Dave Foster shares with us now the history of the Red Kettle Campaign and the Salvation Army's mission to help make a difference.
It was in 1852 in England when Methodist minister William Booth began reaching out to people who didn't attend traditional church, and some of whom at the time wouldn't have been welcome in church because of their looks or lifestyle or because they were poor and destitute. He was ridiculed for his actions, so he left conventional ministry. Captain Carla Salisbury with the Vincennes Salvation Army Corps says that's when, in 1865, Booth and his family began what became known as the Christian Mission.
They began to do church services on the streets, took church to the people, but they began to notice that a lot of people, it was hard for them to pay attention to the church services, and they realized that it's hard to listen when your stomach's growling, or if you haven't had a bath in a month. It's hard to really concentrate on church when you have these physical needs that are unmet. So from that, they began to do kind of social service work. His motto became Soup, Soap, and Salvation.
Within 10 years, Booth had 1,000 volunteers. His movement was later renamed from the Christian Mission to the Salvation Army, and its workers became known as Salvationists. And over the next century, the Army spread across the world. The Vincennes Salvation Army opened in 1907. Captain Salisbury has been leading the local corps and chapel for 2 years. She's a fifth-generation Salvationist, and she says the mission of helping everyone continues, no matter who they are, how they are, or where they are in life.
It doesn't matter the color of their skin, their walk of life, none of that matters if they're in need. They're someone who is loved by God, and we will serve them without discrimination, and because we serve Him.
Feeding, clothing, counseling, and pastoring people is not cheap, so the Salvation Army relies on donations from business, industry, groups, churches, and individuals. And these days, around 50% of the budget in Vincennes comes from their Christmastime Red Kettle Campaign. That part of the Salvation Army was started in San Francisco, California, by Salvation Army Captain Joseph McPhee. In December of 1891, he wanted to do something to provide a meal to families in his community.
In Liverpool, there was a big cauldron that was placed out at one of the shipping docks for people to drop donations in for that same purpose, to help the needy in the community. So his mind went back to that, and he thought, maybe I could do something like that here in San Francisco. So he put a big cauldron out at one of the shipping docks in San Francisco to collect donations, just to provide money to support the needy families in his community for Christmas.
The campaign was very successful, and later, when Captain McPhee got transferred to the eastern U.S., he took his kettle with him, and 6 years after it started, Red Kettle Cash was providing hundreds of thousands of Christmas dinners. Now the Red Kettle Campaign is in most of the 133 countries where the Salvation Army operates, and it assists over 4.5 million people during the holiday season in the U.S. alone. The Salvation Army mission not only takes money, it takes volunteers. Julie Allen is the Vincennes Salvation Army Administrative Assistant. She started out as a volunteer in 2014.
Because when I was a younger girl, the Salvation Army always gave to my family. And when I came here and did just some volunteer work, I really liked the church. And so I joined the church and continued to volunteer.
The Vincennes Corps has at least 4 to 5 volunteers helping out a day, sometimes more, and they're always needing help.
We need people to help in the pantry. We need people to help clean. We need people to help ring bells at Christmas. So it's very important for us to stay active and to be able to help people.
Captain Salisbury knows all too well what it means to need help. She grew up in the church and has spent her life serving in the Corps, but she's not immune to life's hardships. She says she's been abandoned and divorced and has raised children on her own.
When I see families struggling, you know, they're working hard, trying to make ends meet, and just situations come up. A car breaks down, or they have a fire, or something that really just sets them back, and they really are trying their best to do it on their own, and they hate to ask. You know, making that ask is the hardest thing for them to do, but ultimately they have to kind of swallow their pride and make that ask. Those are the ones that really tug at my heart, because I've been there. I've been in their situation.
Local Salvation Army soldiers and volunteers are urging you, when you see that red kettle and that shivering bell ringer outside the store this season, to remember that there are those who rely on the jingling of the bells and clanging of the change in the kettle at Christmas to get through a tough time, no matter what time of year. And you're encouraged to think about doing more than just giving money. By a simple phone call or filling out an online form, you can be part of the Salvation Army history and legacy of meeting basic human needs in your community by volunteering. For First City Focus and photojournalist Dave Novak, I'm Dave Foster.
You can find out more about how to help or donate by visiting salvationarmyindiana.org.